Celluloid, and we're turning it into music and podcast for you.
All right, welcome one and all to another episode of We Came from Celluloid. I am Nikki P, here as always with the illustrious, the charming, the gracious, the most gracious perhaps, Mr. Brian Pritchard. How are we doing today, Brian?
I'm good, man. Thank you for asking. Thank you. It's been an adventurous month. August has been a month, for sure. Lots happened. We're like a day or two away.
I feel like I've lived multiple lives in the past couple months myself, so.
Yeah, I mean, not, as much as you want this stuff to be evergreen, you know what I mean, in terms of anybody should be able to stumble into a podcast and enjoy it, regardless of what's going on in the world at the moment it's being recorded. But I guess Ozzy passing was slightly before the beginning of August, but the idea that like in a 30-day time span, we lost Ozzy Osbourne and Brent Hines is devastating, that this is in the same year where David Lynch passed is a weird thing to even wrap my head around in terms of, Mastodon and Brent have been a really big deal to me in my adult life, in my 21st century life. But Ozzy and David Lynch have been there since I was like a little kid, and so, yeah, that's some dead heroes, buddy. Some dead heroes added to the list.
Well, I would say the world of rock has taken at least a good gut punch. And I would even say we can extend that to Mr. Lynch. Because at least one song was inspired by Mr. Lynch that I know of.
I know a bunch, but yeah. What do you think of?
Think Pixies.
From the Pixies? What, did they do a cover of the In Heaven Everything Is Fine or something?
Yeah, they sure did.
Okay. Interesting. I didn't know that.
And it's pretty awesome. Not granted, I'm partial to the Pixies, but it's definitely a very Frank Black variation of the track.
I remember hearing on the same Anthrax EP, I want to say. I might be wrong on this detail. I know they were both Anthrax. I remember Anthrax having a sound clip that was from Blue Velvet, right? That in one of their songs, suddenly it's the Dennis Hopper thing of him going, "I can hear your fucking radio, you stupid shit," which is a good sound clip for a song, just with no context. And they had a whole track called Black Lodge, right? Which is a Twin Peaks thing. And
interesting.
And it felt, without being like super, super explicit beyond that name, which is very, very super explicit already, the song did seem to be about Laura Palmer, as many people were feeling that vibe in the early 90s. It's crazy that there was a moment in time for something like that to really hit the zeitgeist in that way. This is a weird jump to make maybe, but what Twin Peaks being on the cover of Time magazine reminds me of is watching, I remember going to look for B-52's live concert footage once and finding some festival performance of theirs from like Brazil, maybe something like that, but like massive, massive, massive crowd. You know what I mean? Like people as far as the eye could see lined up to watch the B-52s. And this was like in a Love Shack era. As I recall, they were another band that experienced some tragedy. I'm embarrassed to admit I don't remember the gentleman's name, but their lead guitar player had died early on before they blew up big. And they've got a couple of albums, one of them called Whammy, that were like some of their early the shit's weird, it's really, really weird. And the idea of watching them play to a festival-sized crowd in 1984, and just going, man, what a fucking world where that many people were somehow on the same resonant frequency as the B-52s, right? And yeah, I feel the same way about Lynch, that for even a moment, that much of the public consciousness was somehow, tapping into that odd energy. It doesn't happen often, right? Where I feel like my weird tastes break through to like mass appeal, but every once in a while things just
I mean, mass appeal usually makes me not like things. So, there's always that.
well, yeah, that it can certainly be a red flag. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to be a naysayer just for the sake of being a naysayer, but yeah, there's something to that. You know what I mean? I don't know what that reminded me of. Maybe in part because I rewatched it fairly recently. I've been cycling through some Danny Boyle stuff. I really love 28 Years Later. I love his work anyway. I love Alex Garland, and not that they're always collaborating, but they've collaborated a bunch. So I've been cycling through both of their work. But I watched Slumdog Millionaire again. Right. And that movie, I remember seeing like opening weekend in 2008, I want to say it was. I saw it because it was the new Danny Boyle movie, right? I fucking saw Shallow Grave when it was a new release at Blockbuster, and I loved that movie. And so when Trainspotting came out, it was the new Danny Boyle movie, right? And I followed his work. I watched Life Less Ordinary. I saw him split up with Ewan McGregor and make The Beach, which was kind of a mess. But Millions, nobody saw, but that's a cool movie. Sunshine was amazing, right? Sunshine is a really, really cool movie. But yeah, Slumdog Millionaire, I remember seeing and liking very much as just a new Danny Boyle movie. And then in the months that followed, it was suddenly like the talk of the town as far as being like an Oscar contender, and did ultimately win Best Picture that year. And at the moment that it was under like that sort of lens, it was an immediate turnoff. You know what I mean? That like, I don't know, like
That feeling right there for you is exactly what I felt in the whole Jordan Peele Get Out moment. I'd watched the movie, thought it was pretty okay. And then all of a sudden, like, it's not just some niche horror movie that I thought did something original. This is now the second coming of Christ. And it's like, yeah, that doesn't sit well with me. Like, it's a good movie. Can we just leave it at it's a good movie? Not he's here to usher us into a new world.
the only other thing I'd add is that I mean he did tap into some culturally poignant, interesting things to me. Like I could say about Spike Lee that Spike Lee, no matter what, like I think I mentioned I saw his new release. I saw Highest to Lowest, which is um the closest comparison in his body of work would be Inside Man. And I say that because they're both fairly straightforward, but really fucking solid, like, but fairly straightforward, like almost genre pictures, right? Um, but Spike Lee can never not be Spike Lee in terms of whether it's little Easter egg details, half of which I'm sure even go over my head, right? It's just sometimes I'll learn things from commentary tracks and bonus features where it's like, that poster on the wall or that shirt he's wearing is for the original, Negro League baseball team or whatever. And I'm going like, oh, okay, that's a little Easter egg he put in there. But no, he always works that stuff in. And the comparison I was making, yeah, is with Jordan Peele, right? Of saying, well, Get Out to me definitely seemed to be articulating a black experience, a black cultural experience. It's probably not the first time that I feel like I've seen black artists, filmmakers, storytellers try to communicate details of that, but he did a really interesting job with it. As far as, again, going, here's a really entertaining movie, but it's got this other stuff there that, the idea, it's weird, like,
Well, and I guess therein lies where my issue would be is that it was a mildly entertaining movie with a really interesting premise. like I'd already given it credit for like the racial stuff. It's like, oh, that's cool. Like I've never seen that type of voice in the movie. But the movie outside of that, I mean, it's not like it was crazy original. Beyond that, it's an escape movie with this one cool little twist that you only have if you use the racial lens. And that to me, it just didn't warrant like the critical praise, I guess, that it got. To me, the praise should have been, we need to watch this guy, see what he does in the future, as opposed to throw all of the money that's in Hollywood at this guy and let him do anything he wants at that point.
Well, while it was a debut film, certainly they had multiple, years of that successful sketch comedy show. So he's not exactly a new artistic voice. That's an interesting thing. I mean, Louis C.K.'s movie never came out, and I don't mean Pootie Tang, right? I mean the one that I remember seeing trailers for that. It was something with fucking daddy in the title, and I'm struggling to remember what it was, right? But it had Chloe Grace.
Oh, good God. That sounds like a bad idea, but
I know, it had Hit Girl in it, and it had John Malkovich in it. But, well, I guess he had already made Louis at that point too, but in an alternate reality, that could have launched Louis in some new direction as a filmmaking voice. And if it had been critically acclaimed and beloved and an Oscar contender, then yeah, you sit there and go like, well, no, he'd already established a storytelling voice. I guess the idea that Jordan Peele's storytelling voice was kind of far off from this in a way, but Get Out was it's all satire.
well, and I'll give it to him. Even in that same world, Keegan did nothing of import. He's in so much stuff since like he and Peele's ended, but none of it's like ever reached critical acclaim. It's always like, oh look, Keegan's in this movie in this fun bit part, or oh, Keegan tried something and it's really bombing. Like the things that he tended to be like, it looked like the leader of. Like, what was that Keanu movie that was just awful, awful.
I quite liked the Keanu movie, and they were both in that one. To be fair, that to me was like a Key and Peele.
Was it? Actually, that one I was just kind of took as being Keegan's thing. I guess maybe it was the way that they promoted it that I saw on my end.
No, they are both the leads of that movie together for sure.
Well, I was thinking more like because didn't Keegan direct that one?
I don't think so, but maybe if something stands out in your mind as why that was more of a showpiece for him, maybe I'm just forgetting something. But
if you're listening, folks, and want to tell me I'm an idiot, please feel free to tell me I'm an idiot. We've wasted too many episodes on my feelings in Jordan Peele, for the record.
Well, 24 hours ago, coincidentally, I did bring him up conversationally. So like it is somewhat tying back into just, we can't save all of our interactions for the microphone. And yes, I was sharing you that our own Puma Thurman's own Connor Heldorfer acknowledged having never seen any of them, which was a situation I was inclined to try and remedy. I like taking over stupid movies to watch at Connor's house. I like taking stuff over to make my friend laugh. And so I've brought over like Streets of Fire and The Apple and like, just like goofy stuff, usually with a musical component to it. Miami Connection, right? All of those are hilarious bad movies, but they also have strong musical ingredients. I haven't yet brought over Graffiti Bridge, but that's been on my mind. You know what I mean? For sure.
So I actually just introduced my daughter to a stupid, dumb movie with a musical bent. Happened to have been made with, one of the dudes from Skinny Puppy, better known as Repo, the Genetic Opera.
Oh boy, if I seen any of it, it was a long time ago. I mean, that's sort of vaguely on my radar as a thing, and
I own it.
Yeah, I don't know why it didn't grab me enough to see through, but yeah, something I have not seen that one. Yeah.
To me, I mean, the movie was okay. It's not great. It was interesting that someone managed to get a budget to take on a project like that. Like that amazed me more than anything. At the time, my biggest fascination was that Paris Hilton's face fell off. And like watching horrible things happen to Paris Hilton on film was always a fun pastime of mine. You know, at House of Wax, she takes like 4 feet of pipe through the face. It was just how I enjoyed spending the early 2000s.
So, I mean, is One Night in Paris on that list? Or, yeah. House of Wax, I remember bumming me out. That was one that she was in, and you know, it's odd because like I don't remember if we've talked about the idea, like moments where I can be a real softy for in ways that sometimes surprise me, where I feel like I've watched a lot of grisly shit that doesn't bother me. And then something like that stupid House of Wax movie, there was some throwaway character who was still alive inside his wax thing, and he was like at a piano, but he was trapped inside the thing, you know what I mean? And I don't know why, but I remember just feeling so like bad for that character. There's a type of suffering, right? It's not just violence. It's cruelty and suffering that sometimes flips an empathy switch. I fucking love the fact that I'm 42 and can still get easily swept up in the shit I'm watching. I fucking pray I never lose that. I don't know who I'm praying to, but I ask you, universe, to please grant me a lifetime of continuing to be swept away by the things I watch. You know what I mean? So, but that same quality does make me vulnerable to a moment of having something really get under my skin. Like I can't watch the Rob Zombie movies, like House of a Thousand Corpses, or no. It's not that one that I had to turn off, even though that one was fucking a bummer too. But the one where they do like the home invasion at the hotel or whatever, fucking whatever that next movie was that he made, I had to turn off like a half hour in, where I'm going, okay, hats off to this guy. He is a talented filmmaker who knows how to use this medium in a way that genuinely pushes my buttons, right? Like his Halloween movies, the same thing. There's just something so fucking gross and unpleasant about it. And so I don't like his shit, but I do think he's talented. But yeah, that one in particular, what's the fucking name of that one? Something with hell in the title, right? His
Devil's Rejects.
Devil's Rejects. Yeah. Fuck that movie and fuck him for making it, is my fucking feeling on the subject.
It was my only complaint was it was really, really long.
I wouldn't know because I fucking turned that gross shit off.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, you turned it off. The other thing, I love House of a Thousand Corpses. I wish I got to see the original cut, because if you follow the history of that movie, like it moved from studios like 3 or 4 different times before actually getting released, and has huge pieces of the movie on the cutting room floor for both time and content. And because of the era it happened in, like we don't get all that extra shit like we would now, because it's all digital and whatnot. Like it's literally like lost to time, or and the destruction of celluloid, the actual film stock. But man, I would love to think of how good that movie could have been.
The stuff that does and doesn't get salvaged. I mean, I could, some new release comes out, even a movie I really dig, I'll usually watch the bonus features because I'm just super thorough when I buy something. You know what I mean? I'm anal about like knowing that like I watched all of it. You know what I mean? But like deleted scenes on new shit tend to have a who gives a shit quality to it. But it's kind of a minor miracle to me when I get like a moment I've never seen from, especially a movie from part of my young life that I've seen a million times. Like, I don't think the 4K special edition of Young Guns had any deleted footage, But like that would be the sort of example. I did see a 4-hour cut of David Lynch's Dune not long ago. And there was a bunch of extra shit in there. The part that really jumped out at me was because it's definitely not in the theatrical cut, but they did it in the remake. There was a scene of them getting the like water of life out of these baby sandworms and like the process that they use to do that. And he filmed and shot that scene for the 1984 cut, but it's not in the movie, but then it is in this 4-hour TV cut. But yeah, I had never seen it or never noticed it at the very least. Cause I'm pretty sure I've seen that extended cut at least once before, but, there's like an hour of extra footage, there's a ton. And there is stuff like that I end up watching and going, yeah, this was made in a time like, there was something else I was watching recently too, where I ended up coming away going like, yeah, this would have been a better mini series than it was a movie. But then the flip side of that is when something can get in and get out. I saw, and I don't even remember it that well. I just remember it gave me this impression. What the fuck was the name of it? Have you ever heard of State of Grace?
I heard of it. I'm not sure what it is even to think of it though. The name sounds familiar.
It was like, it was when I saw on the video shelves forever. And then I finally got around to watching it like 10 years ago and was like, whoa, where the fuck has this movie been? And then it's been on my Amazon wish list to like buy a copy. And I haven't watched it since. But one reason that movie stands out to me is that I remember watching it. And at the time, we already had, shifted into this modern culture of the mini series, like the long form storytelling, right? And whether it's Breaking Bad or Mad Men, Game of Thrones, all the stuff that sort of moved us in that direction. When a movie can still get in, get out, and make me give a fuck in 2 hours or less, right? Where you're coming in going, I don't know who any of these people are. So it's not a remake, it's not a reboot, it's not a sequel, it's not anything. You're coming in fucking cold. If something can get its hooks in, tell its story, and then give you closure and get out, that used to be normal. Now it almost feels to me like the same feeling I would get from like a short story, right? Like when I was more of a reader as a kid, I loved reading novels, but a good short story, you were sort of like, I was always really impressed by when a short story could be like just as good. And when a movie anymore feels just as good as like a 5-season television show, like feels like just as satisfying of a meal, that shit really impresses me.
Absolutely, and it's weird to me. Like I said, today they go so over the top on length of films. Like I do my yearly horror binge, and I can't tell you like how many times my issue, like there's always at least one check mark off for why is this movie this long? This was completely unnecessary. You cut out 20 minutes of this movie and you have an actual good movie. But now that I'm sitting here through 20 minutes of why is this here, the punch is it's completely gone. And you're like, well, I guess I don't get that time back. And it's almost like they're trying to make post 2-hour long movies a thing and force it on us. When it's like, make it shorter, make more money at the box office, squeeze an extra performance in during the week, Find a thing here.
Yeah, I'm not sure what all the contributing factors are. Because to your point, it wouldn't be the studios pushing for it. So the idea that the auteurs who are still playing that game, right, and really sitting there and saying, nope, I'm a filmmaker, right? And that is what I do, and that's what I want to do. I can kind of see some of those people, their stuff naturally veering longer. It's like what we were talking about with Ari Aster, right? After going to see Eddington, that notion of going, I think sometimes these kind of wonderkins pop up on the scene And I appreciate a studio that recognizes if we were the talent, we would be making the shit instead of giving you the money to make it, right? So like a smart studio on the one hand should know when to just invest in the talent and back away, right? You know what I mean? But even like I've said about David Lynch, you know, like to me, the film of his I enjoy the least is Inland Empire, which is a 3-hour kind of mess of a film. Because there was nobody there to rein any of it in. And so that's a weird thing to say or feel about arguably my favorite, filmmaker, right? Is to say,
I have always required having somebody in a band like that is there to kind of import the Joe Everyman point of view. Because if I got to follow my every indulgence with music, the other end gets to be a little much for everybody as far as like way too many layers, way too long, way too much going on, and nobody understands what the hell. Like, what is this? What genre is this? What is any of this? Like, this doesn't make any sense. So like, I've always kind of relied on having somebody that's more of like a standard pop music aficionado. And not that I don't love that stuff and like I know a lot about it, but someone that like understands writing that stuff more than I do. To kind of rein things in. So it's like I understand that about myself.
friction in the creative process, just like in fucking nature. You know what I mean? It's like you need this shit rubbing together to create heat, to create activity. It's like you need resistance.
Do you know where everything in nature grows? I'm a big permaculture guy. Well, more importantly, the edges is where everything happens. Like you look at a forest, all the growth is on the edges. You look at a field, all the growth and like everything growing is on the edges. Like it's the change from one place to another is where everything like really starts popping off and becoming, abundance. So it's interesting you say like the friction. It's almost like the friction and like those areas is what causes like the abundance that you get there. The one thing I feel like we have to note is that like it does seem to coincide with the age of digital film and like film not being no sense of wasting film and capturing things that I think has allowed the indulgence that we get a lot of times out of our creatives, certainly in the film sphere. And I think that's how you get missteps in particular, like what was the one Marvel movie they had that great filmmaker woman in, and it was I remember it because it was their favorite movie ever to make from Disney because it was the most multicultural movie ever made. Kamal Nanjiani was
The Eternals. It was awful.
Was that
The Eternals is the name of that terrible movie.
Yeah, The Eternals. But like part of the issue was like you're taking what should be an action movie and it's just all these beautiful sweeping nature shots and cool stuff happening, but like you get endlessly bored watching nothing but cool shots over and over again with nothing happening. It's like you need the story, and in that type of filmmaking it certainly doesn't provide for the type of story you're expecting in that environment for sure. But it to me, a lot of it is once again leaning into the overindulgence of having the ability to not restrain yourself.
The other thing I'm freaked out about, sort of getting more and more of a sense that it's happening out there, are these movies that go full bore into production with no fucking script at all, right? Harrison Ford, I saw interviewed talking about that Captain America Brave New World movie, which sucked. And he was talking about how it was like the first time that he had made a movie that had no shooting script, right? That like they're literally just like inventing shit day by day, scene by scene. It's like as if it's fucking Curb Your Enthusiasm, right? It's like you don't make tentpole movies like that casually and expect any, like, I don't know. It's the same. The more stuff is leaning into like Chat GPT and stuff. It's like, listen, man, if you don't care enough to create it, then why in the world do I care enough to consume it? You know, it's it's just treating me as an audience member like you'll fucking eat up whatever bullshit we fucking give you. And it's like, fuck you, dude. Well, except I did go see it in theaters and I did buy it.
So, I mean, I think you're going to see a lot less of all of that, just because like the economics of the world aren't in a place for that to happen. Um, where I come from, we talk about easy, cheap money is how that happens, and that's low interest rates, things like that allow that to happen. Where like you can go and get loans without like having to show that you're capable of doing anything, and like nothing. Like there's never been a worse time for that, like, or a more abundant time for them than like say during the Couve era, where like they're just throwing money at anyone to make movies and don't even care about criteria because they were literally just throwing money around to make movies. So economic downturns can only be in the positive for filmmaking, frankly, because there's less money to go around to make crappy movies. I hope.
Fair enough. So I saw Weapons last night. Weapons was really cool. That was a big budget release. It's been playing on IMAX screens, so they spent enough money to shoot some of it on IMAX cameras. Weapons was like the cinematic equivalent of a page turner. You know what I mean? It was a good mystery. It was well told. Pacing was good. Could have cut probably 20 minutes out of it. But I think it was still an essential. And I mentioned that the context of that as it relates to what you were saying is that I do like continuing to see new filmmaking voices. Even what I was saying about Danny Boyle, that's still the game I play in music or in film, is the idea of following somebody's work and going, cool, I like this. What did they make before and what are they going to make next? And every once in a while you get these things where one artist you love and another artist you love start making stuff together. And you know what I mean? It's neat, but I think that the world is never going to stop. Like I had a thought about the creative vacuum. You know, like when somebody leaves a company they work for example, if you've ever worked for a place that had a bunch of employees, like sometimes a critical worker can leave and create like a power vacuum that like needs to be filled. Like, and it's not always as simple as just, well, put a new person in that seat. Sometimes you just sort of see the ways that like other people take on aspects of the missing person's world, right? And so whether it is Ozzy, whether it is Brent, whether it is David Lynch, I'll go mystical with it a little bit, right? And say that I kind of like the idea that Aldous Huxley presented of mind at large, if you know that theory, the sort of like we are one consciousness of it all, right? And like if you think of there's just one big brain, you know, and from that one big brain, you're splitting off into all these bodies, you know, and as much as we have our own separate experiences, we are, of course, connected to each other, and we have some information that passes amongst each other. All of which is to say, at a moment,
It's interesting that you're attributing that to Huxley as opposed to the guy he pulled it from.
I read the book a long time ago, but that's certainly where I was exposed to it. But ultimately, that the power vacuum, that without Ozzy, without Brent Hines, without David Lynch, that creative void needs to be filled up, and that to me take some of the sadness and tragedy out because there's some excitement in that. That's the growth on the edges. You know what I'm saying? That like it's like a crack opens up. You know what I mean? And in new things need to come into that space to fill it. And so a world without David Lynch, when I see a movie like Weapons, it's not like I'm sitting there going, aha, the new Lynch. It's not that. You know what I mean? I don't mean like it's not some one-to-one comparison thing, but there is a sense of going, okay, there's a fucking vacancy at the end, right? There's a vacancy for creative voices now to step up. That I adore Martin Scorsese. It will be a fucking tragedy when he passes, but it also creates room. You know what I mean? Like the loss of people creates room for something new to come in. So I don't know, man. I don't know whether it's old age or tragic circumstances. There's something kind of natural to that thing too, where yeah, people die, new people are born, things leave, things come in. I don't know. I don't know.
I will be giving this exact same speech the day Terry Gilliam passes. I'll say that.
Yeah, and yes, there is a void. There's a void. There's a void that he would leave as well. But I'm excited. I'm excited to think about some artist or artists that you and I haven't heard of yet. They're out there right now. You know what I mean? There are people alive.
I discover new bands all the time, boss. Like I Spotify and YouTube are good to me. I'm constantly finding new artists I like that nobody else knows.
No, but even like I'll put it this way. There's a little kid out there, age 10, who's gonna make a movie that I fucking love in 20 years. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what he's doing right now, right? Or she or whoever, right? But like my sister used to live in Asheville, North Carolina, and she used to talk about running into Andy McDowell sometimes at the grocery store out there, or at least knew people who did, right? Because Andy McDowell lived out there, and so she was visible enough in the community. But at the moment, you've got her daughter, Margaret Qualley, is like a kind of a big star, a burgeoning star, and so I had that thought of going like, shit.
I did not know that that was her daughter.
Oh yeah. And so I'm thinking in my head of going,
That explains a few things for me.
it explains the gap in her teeth for that cute little smile.
Well, I what's funny is I watched Hudson Hawk just the other day, so I'm all in like Andy McDowell land already.
I just got the special edition of Hudson Hawk. I'm couldn't be more excited to pop in that new Blu-ray. I think there are finally bonus features. Well, actually, there's been a commentary track for years. That's the guy that wrote and directed Heathers. I'm telling you this, like, you know, I imagine you know that. You know, it was his follow-up.
I did not actually ever put that together, but that's funny that like we be the both of those movies are the same guy. That's fun.
Well, and in a way, you can sort of see how his weird auteur voice is in there. It just got, you know, Willist got smirked all over by sweet Bruce.
And I'll be honest, it's a cartoon nature of that movie is part of why I love it so much. Just the idea of like old school catnappers and you know Danny Aiello, they're singing songs as they steal shit. It's like it's just so fun, so wholesome almost.
Dude, the show Legion, the FX show Legion. Have you seen that one?
No, I've seen of it.
I'm in the middle of season 2 at the moment, or fairly early on in it. But they absolutely had a sequence of people moving through a hallway to swinging on a star. You know what I mean? Where I'm going like, okay. Like, yeah, and I wouldn't assume they expect the vast majority of people to know it, but in my heart of hearts, I'm going, whoever made that decision fucking, you know, knows some Hudson Hawk, right?
To bring things back full circle to band talk as we all get done and with you saying, look, you're ready to step into the shoes and be the next thing that takes over after Ozzy and Brent. You are going to pick up the mantle, is what I got from that whole thing.
What, you think I was putting myself in that spot?
Well, that's what I got out of it. You're just saying I'm the one who's going to take over for this next generation. But I'm thinking in particular about our song 1212, that like the moment I heard 1212, I know, and I'm going to bury it in the album cut one freaking way or the other. There is a section where the only thing I can hear in my head is literally the like end of the chorus of Nights in White Satin, that I'm actually absolutely going to cut a clip of and bury in the mix somewhere just so I know it's there. And so some dude's going to go, oh my God, is that what I think it is? That's what I think it is. 'Cause I love a good Easter egg. I love it.
Yeah. Easter eggs are the best.
So anyways,
Yeah.
folks, we're no more Easter eggs today because we are out of time, because I just mixed one of our almost hour-long episodes, and I don't have time for that crap anymore, boss man. We're even too long-winded for me to want to deal with.
Understood. Lips are
But
sealed.
we're hoping you enjoy our little meanderings. And we will be back. Thank you so much for listening. Take care.